Hi everyone, it's Granny. I hope everyone is doing great today. Today we're going to talk about a case that is over, but there's still some things going on with it. And it was the first case that got me hooked to the true crime community. It's the case of Gabby Petito. And I just want to go through um, kind of the timeline of what happened, my thoughts on it. Love to know your thoughts on it as well. So let's get started. So in June of 2021, um, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, some say they were engaged or they broke up, but they were going to go on this van life tour together. Okay. They were going to, um, go across country. They were going to document their travels on social media called van life. All right. So they started out, and Gabby planned to chronicle all of their adventures, in the documentary called Band Life. And she was struggling, I guess, with that a little bit, but she was determined to get it done. And in the meantime, she was keeping in contact with her family and her friends until that abruptly stopped around the end of August. But they traveled, they took pictures, and they were posting to social media. And once again, that abruptly stopped in August. On August 12th, the Grand County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call about a dispute between a couple. And this person said that the man was slapping the girl and yelling at her and that kind of thing. And then they ran down the street, um, and then they jumped and got in the van, and all the while the man was still hitting the girl. Moab police stopped the van, the infamous white van that we know about, and talked to the couple, right? So I think most of us know about that stop. And in fact, later, Gabby's parents, sued the Moab Police Department, and rightfully so. Um, they ended up thinking that somehow that Gabby was the aggressor. Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't know how they came up with that, other than she she was kind of saying it was her fault. Uh, but if you would have looked at her face, if they would have looked at her body language, they would have known that this woman was experiencing domestic abuse. But no, all they did was separate them for the night and went on their way. I'd hate to think, I'd like to think that if they had done their job on that day, that she might still be alive, but we'll never know. Um, so on August 17th, though, Brian flew back to Tampa and closed a storage shed because he said something about they needed extra money, and um, flew back to Gabby on the 23rd. So my question on this one is why? I mean, okay, so they needed money, but he left Gabby alone in a place she was not familiar with for what, 5 days? All by herself? I I don't understand that. Um, on the 24th, Gabby FaceTimes with her mother, and they were leaving Utah and heading to the Teton um, range. On the 25th, there were multiple texts between Gabby and her mom. On the 27th, there were more texts between Gabby and her mom, believing that they were still in the Tetons. And on the 27th as well, in Jackson, Wyoming, a couple witnessed an altercation at Mary Piglet's restaurant. something about Gabby crying, Brian screaming at the waitress, going out, coming back in, screaming some more at the waitress. Um, the owner of the restaurant disputed this or would not give any information regarding that. But then we also saw them in a Whole Foods store, and Gabby looked really, really sad. Um, but I noticed that when Brian got out of the van at the Whole Foods store, he slammed that door shut. I don't know if anyone else noticed that as well, but I did. And on August 30th, there was one last text to Nicole from Gabby's phone, and it said, no service in Yosemite. But Nicole didn't feel that that was from Gabby. And of course, now after the fact, we know that that was not from Gabby. Because on August 29th, two different women um, claimed that they had picked up Brian. He was the first one, he's wanting to go to Jackson. Didn't know if it was Jackson Hole. They were going to Jackson Hole, I believe. I'm not sure. But anyway, he realized that they were going in the wrong direction, wrong Jackson. So he acted really weird and got almost jumped out of the van. And then in that same parking lot was another woman who took him to the Spread Creek campground, but just left him at the beginning there. He didn't want a ride to his vehicle. He had told both women that he had been camping on his own because his girlfriend was back at the van working on her van life documentary. On September 1st, Brian Laundrie returns back to Northport, Florida with Gabby's white van without Gabby. Okay. Now remember, August 27th is the last day that Nicole felt she heard from Gabby. I can't even imagine as a mother how that must have felt. Doesn't matter if your kids are grown up or not. I My heart goes out to them. I What they went through this whole ordeal. The Laundries would not speak with them. Um, Brian didn't answer any of their calls. The sister didn't answer any of the calls. Brian's sister, nobody, because they started to get worried, right? I mean, Gabby had kept in constant communication with them. On September 6th, the Laundrie family went camping about 75 miles away from Northport. You're, I don't understand that, but we actually saw pictures of Brian and he looked normal and he was playing with his sister's kids and like nothing ever happened, right? On the 11th, finally, Petito's family report her missing, officially missing. And um, on September 16th, their attorney held a news conference begging for the Laundrie family to give them some news, to speak out, give them some news about what happened with Gabby. Nothing. This whole time, from August 27th through September 16th, nothing. Nothing from the Laundries at all, or from Brian. Nothing. They just lawyered up and didn't say anything. Um, on September 17th, the Laundries report to the police. This is the first time they decided to talk to the police and let them know that their son was missing now, that he had gone to the Carlton Reserve and he never came back. Um, he had left his car there, and Roberta ended up going and picking up his car because he didn't come home for days and days. So the search for Brian Laundrie started in the Carlton Reserve on the 18th. And at this time, it's good to note that at, at this point, the Carlton Reserve was flooding over from all the rains. So when Bryant went in, it may have been drier, but right after that, because it was rainy season in Florida, it started getting really wet there. On September 19th, well, I should say just before that, a YouTube couple um, reported to the authorities that they had a video in the Grand Tetons of at Gabby's white van, and they gave them that information. And this video was instrumental in the authorities finding Gabby's remains. And on the 19th, human remains were discovered in Teton County, consistent with the description of Gabby. And for any of you that watched my introduction, um, you'll know that I came home that day and I was watching JB, and he was, waiting for this police report to come on, and we listened. He had it on live, and we listened to that together, and he broke down. But he started saying, that Joe and Nicole, Tara and Jim, they had done the right thing. They did all the right things, and it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. And he was visibly shaken, tears coming out of his eyes. And I sat there and cried right with him, as well as I'm sure many of people in America, maybe across the world, I don't know. Um,
All right, we have a tweet here. Can you send that my way, Alexis, please? All right, so we have a tweet here from Joseph Petito that just came in. You can hear it there, even in the reporter's voice here. This has been a story that has not just affected, listen, of course, at the center of this story are the families that we're talking about here. We're talking now. We'll talk about the Laundrie family here in just a moment. But we're not moving there. We've been talking about this story for way too long. We are not moving on to the Laundrie aspect of this story until we give Gabby what she deserves. And Gabby deserves a moment here where we can all just think and focus on Gabby and the family and sending prayers for Gabby. Brian Laundrie, we'll talk about him in a few minutes. We have a lot of time to talk about Brian Laundrie, and we'll get to Brian Laundrie here in a moment. But all of our commenters here, I know that you're pounding your keyboards right now in frustration, and you want to know who did this, and you want to know who's responsible. And I'm sure the people pounding the keyboards hardest know who, or at least believe that they know who is responsible for this. We will get to that aspect of the story here for a second. First and foremost, we need to send prayers for the Petito family. The Petito family has done everything that they can. Everything. They've flown to Wyoming. They have flown down here to Florida. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They have done countless interviews. I'm thinking of that family right now because they've done everything right. They've done it right. They've made themselves available. They've come up to the podium. They've hired an attorney. They issued statements. They did this. They did it all the right way because they were just trying to find Gabby. So this is a family that is really having an extremely rough day. Let's just focus on Gabby for a second and Gabby Petito's family. She was 22 years old. She was 22. All right, let's bring up some of the commentary here and Nico Clemens. I'm going to see if I can bring this up here on my screen. This is a tweet here from Joseph Petito. It'll take me a moment here, everybody, to load this up. So everybody just bear with me. I need a moment myself, but just everyone just kind of bear with me here for a moment. And we'll just kind of bring this up here on screen. And there we have it. Moments ago from Joseph Petito. And we'll just kind of look at this here. And you can find me at on Twitter at WFLAJB, and that's on the screen here. And I apologize, I shouldn't have. This is my account. Joseph Petito here, heartbreak emoji, hashtag Gabby Petito, she touched the world, and put up this picture.
It wasn't fair. And he was visibly shaken, tears coming out of his eyes. And I sat there and cried right with him, as well as I'm sure many of people in America, maybe across the world, I don't know. Um, all I could think about was the family, Joe and Nicole, and what, Tara and Jim and the kids and what they were going through because they had spent all this time begging the laundries to give them some kind of information about where Gabby was. And they lawyered up and refused to tell them anything. And now their son was missing. And it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to have compassion for this couple that now their son is gone. And I'm sure most of us were thinking the worst, although there were some people thinking, no, they helped him out of the country. No, he's, you know, in Mexico, I think there were sightings of him. There was sightings of him in North Carolina and wherever else. I don't know. There was all kinds of sightings of Brian Laundrie everywhere. But basically, Brian Laundrie took his own life in the Carlton Reserve. He had confessed to what he did to Gabby in a notebook. We're not really sure if what he confessed was absolute truth, in my opinion, and I don't know, but in my opinion, he said it was mercy. I do not think so. Not in the way that he was acting and how he slammed the door at that Whole Foods. Go back and look at the video, guys. I'm serious. The man had an anger problem. And so I don't think it was mercy. But where's the justice in this case, right? Did Gabby's family get justice? There is none. There really isn't any. They built a foundation helping other people, helping people through domestic abuse, that kind of thing, which is incredible. Gabby's legacy will move forward. I think that's awesome. Um, they've got lawsuits, and I think we all want to know what's in that letter that Roberta wrote to Brian Byrne after you read. I'd like to know what's in that as well, right? Wouldn't you? Um, obviously, his remains were found as well. His parents led us to his remains um, on October 20th, and this was after the waters receded. The area that his remains were found in was flooded when they were doing the initial search for him in that area. It was flooded. So it's understandable that they were not able to find him when they first tried. Um, Cause of death. for Brian was to the head. Um, and, you know, when we look at everything, two parents, two sets of parents now have lost their children, and it's horrific. Mm, but it's really, really hard to find compassion for the Laundry family, isn't it? I understand protecting your child as a mother. I understand that 100%. But I don't understand protecting them when they've done something wrong. I don't get that. And I don't know that I ever will. I do remember seeing people outside of their home the day that Brian's remains were found, and they were yelling and going on. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not right, you know, because regardless of how we may feel about them, they did lose a son. So I can have compassion for that, um, have compassion for the fact that they lost a son. But if they had only spoken out earlier, if they had only joined forces with the Petito family, whether they knew or didn't know, didn't matter. But they didn't, and here we are. There's going to be, there's the Moab case, I, I believe, that's still out there, and this letter. So um, I've heard that we're not going to have a trial until May 24th. Um, I just saw that. I think JB put that out. So I do want to put a plug in for JB, WFLA now, Brian Enton, who did some incredible reporting through this case. Those two stuck with the facts. They cared. And so if you ever are looking for accurate information, go to those two. I really encourage you. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you'd like to talk about this in one of our lives. Um, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.